Greetings and good tidings, you good people. Welcome to Stone by Stone, an Edgewater Castle podcast, where we peel back the layers of the beautiful game like the 32-paneled onion that it is. Join me, Andrew Swanson, your host, as we engage in some insightful conversations with some very remarkable individuals. These brave souls will share their unique perspectives on the world and its game, their personal narratives, and how football has woven itself into the fabric of their lives like the thread in a highly personalized quilt. A heartfelt thank you to our production sponsors, Tightrope Recording, for their masterful sound engineering, and to our dedicated listeners. Your continued support means the absolute world to us, so thank you for it. Now, hear ye, gather round the hearth, pour something literally or figuratively warm into your cups, and welcome to Stone by Stone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stone by Stone. I am your usual host, Andrew Swanson. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very excited to be joined by my friend Ross LeBauex. Ross, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited too. This is going to be a fun conversation. We've known each other for a few years. I think we first met, was it at the DJ Step thing?
Shout out to DJ Step.
Shout out to DJ Step. Absolutely.
It might have been.
Yeah, I think so, because he did some like watch party thing where he had like kits out.
Yes.
Right?
That was amazing.
I think
wore
so.
a cool jersey.
You did. You wore the Sting.
Chicago Fire.
Yeah. Oh, was it Fire one?
It's Sting, but they wore it in a game for the Fire back in the day. It's actually Frank Lopez's jersey. He gave it to me.
Really?
He gave it to me as a little kid.
Oh my god!
Yes.
You dropped this.
I know.
First name drop
I know.
of the
Did
episode. Frank Lopez.
Frank Lopez
Gave you that
yeah.
jersey. No,
Yeah.
that was an amazing jersey. There were some good jerseys on the rack. But that was like the commemorative Sting Fire jersey that Frank Lopez wore in a game.
Yeah, because like when I was a little kid,
cool.
I just got to know Frank, and he ended up coaching my little brother at the Chicago Wind.
Okay.
And so we became like good pals, and then he would just give me jerseys.
Yeah.
I have an Ernie Stewart DC United one too. Random. I know, it's just random.
Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, you dropped
Another
that
one.
too.
Another one.
Yeah,
I just let you
exactly.
know. Hey.
Okay, great. So we're gonna kick things off, moving a little further back into your past, because you're a very fascinating guy, and we'll get to your present and what you're working on now, and the way soccer has impacted your worldview and your life. But I'd love to sort of go back to the very beginning, because you are Chicago born and bred. You are a hometown hero here. So I'd love to know a little bit more about like what your life was like growing up in Chicago.
Yeah.
How your your childhood, your family life, how that sort of impacted who you are today. And yeah, we'll just sort of start there.
Yeah. Let's go. All right. So, December 5th. No, I'm kidding. No, we're not going to go back.
Memory,
Yeah,
I'm assuming it was your birth, like everyone else.
It was. I knew it was coming. So from the south side of Chicago, though the kids at my school say I'm technically not south side, I'm east side, and they call it over east.
Okay.
So for my whole life, I'm like, I live on the south side. And then the kids are like, Mr. LeBauex, where do you stay? I said, 85th Estonia. They're like, no, you over east. I'm like, wait, what? So now that kind of changed.
Okay.
But
is that a generational thing?
Maybe it is. But
okay.
Yeah, so I'm from the south side, grew up there. No one was really playing soccer. It was like not a thing, basketball, baseball, football. That's what kids are playing at recess. That's what kids are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the only reason why I got into it was my mom worked downtown at a bank. So I guess you could already tell who was putting their kids in soccer.
Sure.
Right? So, and we'll talk about that later,
I'm
right?
Sure we will,
yeah. And so it was interesting because my mom knows nothing about soccer. My mom grew up playing basketball and all these other sports. So she's like, all right, so we're going to do this soccer thing. She called around AYSO over in Jackson Park. So that's like the first time I played soccer.
How old were you?
I was 4.
Okay.
I was 4.
Yeah.
I was actually too young. So they're like, the only way the 4-year-olds can play is if a parent gets a license. So my mom actually has like a F license.
Amazing. She got a grassroots license?
She has a grassroots.
That's amazing.
And so now I'm on her team, and I was just a killer. I don't know what it was. Like my mom's like, I don't know what it was. Like you like picked it up quick, and like I just was going. So from like 4 to 7, I played AYSO at Jackson Park. Right, it was great. It was like what I did. And then my mom tells me, I was like, you know what? I want to like be challenged more. I want to play more. I'm like, oh, how smart of a 7-year-old am I? And so she calls the IYSA. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like once again, she doesn't know what to do. So she's on the phone with I think he's still around, Gus Bender.
Okay.
And he's
yeah,
like the
that
top
sounds
guy.
a familiar
Yeah.
name.
And she's like, all right, I have 4 boys. They all love soccer. Where do I put them in more competitive soccer? Because there was no club soccer teams in the city.
Huh.
So that's why it's crazy now to see all the teams in the city where I'm like,
yeah.
wow. And so Gus Bender was like, all right, Miss LeBauex, there are the Orland Park Sharks or the Chicago Magic. And thank God she chose right. Like, I'm always thinking about that. I'm like, Mom, what? He's like, yeah, it was almost Orland Park Sharks. Chicago Magic, you're talking Mako, you're talking Ned Gravaboy, you're talking, I'm playing with all the pros eventually.
Some of the best
right, some of the best
talents out of
and
Chicago
so I'm
ever.
always like, that's crazy. And so there, 7, I go there. My older brother and I were there. My 2 younger brothers weren't old enough, but they were, along for the ride. We're a soccer family now. We're doing it. And eventually it was like, I think I got to like 9. And this is weird too. They didn't know that I was still like playing up. They thought I was like the same age as my brother. And then one day they're like, can Ross play his age? And they're like, what do you mean? Then I played my age.
Yeah.
I'm cooking now.
Yep.
And then I just kept at it.
Yeah.
Kept at it. Went to De La Salle High School right there in Bronzeville for 2 years. Then I transferred to Mount Carmel, which is closer to home, 64th and Dante. And I was like playing club soccer. I was getting better. And then I remember going to, was it Blue Chip? Which is in Cincinnati. It's either Blue Chip or Disney. And I just remember like seeing all these college coaches. And I'm like, is this going to be a thing? Like, we just don't know. Like we're just, we're just making it up as we go. And I'm like kind of getting better. So then before you know it, all these coaches are there. And then I still remember it was still July 1st of your junior year was like the kind of the time they could call. My phone was like blowing up. And my mom's like, let's turn that phone off for a little bit. Like it was just so out of our worldview. And then from there, I go on some official visits. I see like what the landscape of soccer is like in college. And my mom always told me like, you got to have education. Like that's what you're going to fall back on. So I'm like, all right, cool. From there, I decided.
That ended up being pretty true, didn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I went
in terms of what your work is now.
Yeah, right. Yes. You're like, oh, how parents do know best. Then I went Wake Forest. I visited Santa Clara unofficial, and then I did go to Northwestern and some local ones as well. And then, for the academics and for the soccer, Virginia, like highly touted, program. You got some big wigs coming through the program, and so I was like, I want to be tested. I want to go to a place where are supposedly like the soccer royalty. So that's kind of my soccer story. And then from there, you grind, right? I'm at Virginia. I'm with the big dogs. I'm the only kid from the Midwest on the team, which was like another interesting thing that like they just didn't recruit kids like me. I didn't play a lot my first year, but I was like, I'm determined to make this work. Worked my tail off. My sophomore year, still not starting, but I told myself once I got in, I'm never looking back. It was like maybe 7-8 games in. I said, look, here's my chance. Someone got hurt, and I never looked back. Well, you got 2.5 years later. I ended up being the captain my senior year. We win the ACC championship. We win a national championship. Then I get drafted, and I'm just like, this is crazy, And so that's kind of a
so that was a lot of time.
Data.
We just blew through there, and that was such a journey to go from Chicago Jackson Park AYSO to ACC tournament in college, right? Tell me a little bit about like your process of like starting to love the game. You know what I mean? Because you obviously, it's fascinating to me that you come from a household that just sort of found soccer randomly, right? And like you think of soccer in a lot of places in a lot of terms of like a generational thing where like your parents played or like it comes with you from a different culture or something. But for you, it was just like a choice that, that was made. What was it like to sort of be in Chicago at your first high school, right? As like a player who was like, I think I want a little more from this. Like, talk me through that thought process if you can like get back.
No. It's interesting when you're in it, you're just like kind of in it. You're like going with the flow. I just like that it was also like a family thing. Like that was something we did. We were, we're getting in the van. We're all going together. I'm
Yeah.
changing out of my Catholic school, trying to put on my pants. I'm like, what am I doing? My mom's driving so far, like making a commitment to me that was crazy. Because then my older brother went to the Soccers. So now you're talking Arlington Heights to Mokina, New Lenox area before I could drive. So I'm like, man, going to Rockford at 8 a.m. or like the sacrifice she made. And so I think that was a nice thing. And then like, I thought I was like good at it.
Yeah.
And then you couple that with what in 98, the fire's coming.
Yeah.
Right. My mom has season tickets to the Cubs. This is like her commitment. She goes, I'm going to like lower that package so that we can have season tickets to the fire.
Wow.
Whose parent does that for like
that's pretty...
right for like the fire as opposed to like the Cubs?
Yeah.
And so I just always remember I went to the first ever fire game.
Yeah.
I still remember it 2-0 against the Tampa Bay Mutiny.
Nice.
Frank scored.
Yeah, I remember that.
Score.
Yeah.
And so that was like kind of like another moment where I'm like, this is cool. Like Soldier Field's packed, and I remember kicking the ball around and on the gravel of the parking lot, and just like these awesome memories that just have always stuck with me. And then you said the next year, 99, the Women's World Cup came.
Right.
And then because my mom was a fire season ticket owner, she got to go to the U.S. game against Nigeria and didn't take us. I get it. But then like just awesome memories, right?
Yeah,
like
of course.
People want to talk about the guys inspiring a nation or like a generation. Those women were like unbelievable.
Yeah.
You talk Mia Hamm, Christine Lilly,
Yeah.
Akers,
Yep.
Overbeck, Scurry. Like those are the people like I remember watching that game in 99 being like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I think from there just becoming a fan, and then everything you do is kind of around soccer. You're like, this is our thing, and it just has stuck in my life.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah. I'm assuming your mom sort of like became a fan of the game also, right? It sounds like it. If you went to those games without y'all.
Had no idea about soccer. And I think there's some beauty to that in things. And so it's like you're from an outside looking in, and then you slowly find yourself doing it. So like people are like, do you want your kid to play? And I'm like, yes, would be great. But like I am enjoying him being in theater. Like I am like, I know nothing about it.
Right.
And they're saying you need dance shoes. And I'm like, what are dance shoes? Where do we get these from? How do I get this stuff for my kid? And so I'm like, wait, he has a script. I have to like practice with him. And it's so out of my worldview. But like to see his smile, and like I said, he did Finding Nemo. Those are the moments, and then it becomes you, and you now are a part of another community that already with open arms. And so it's just been cool to see that. And I think that's kind of the soccer thing. So now my mom, still watches. She's like, yo, you watching the Prem game? I'm like, you watch Prem now, Mom? Okay, great. Awesome. We've come a long way.
Cowabunga, dude.
Yeah.
That's Squirt Line, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I love that's one of the best characters in Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
So he should
killed
be very
it.
proud.
Killed it.
Ironically, I come from a theater background and got into soccer really late myself. So it's the
someone like you
there.
is very interesting to me.
Okay.
I have a good family. I guess our good friends, our kids are friends. So it's like, all right, I'm going to be friends with you. And I hope I like you.
Yeah,
and I actually do like them.
Nice.
And I like the couple. And he is now like all in.
Yeah.
He is like, he Tottenham's his team. So I was like, unlucky.
Yeah.
But like, he's in it.
Yeah.
He's already like, he went to like a PSG game over in Europe.
Whoa.
He goes to all the Fire games.
Yeah.
He goes to all the Red Star games because he has a daughter, has season tickets.
Yeah,
And
of course.
I'm like, you've been to more games than I have in my life. And like, I love it. And he's just got a later entry point, but he is amazing. He's a cool dude.
It absorbs into the bloodstream really fast, soccer. It
Yeah.
does. It goes quick through your system, and you're just like, okay, I'm obsessed now. I found it at age 28, basically.
That's crazy.
And like, now I'm the president of a club.
Do you remember the moment when you were 28? Do you remember like where you were?
I do. It's a weird story. You want to take this? You're
gonna. No. And I don't know ever how this stuff works in podcasts. I'm like, you just ask me questions?
We're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll be brief. But
Okay.
I was in a play.
Yeah.
And I had an eye accident in my workshop and in my wood shop. So I had to like leave the play. I had to get surgery. I had to be like on the couch for like a long time. And while I'm on the couch, I've got like a thing over my eye, and the only thing on TV is like a Champions League game between Liverpool and like some team I've never heard of from a different country, obviously. And I was like suddenly like Liverpool, heard of them. I just started going through my brain of like, what do I know about this? Basically nothing. And then I just started asking questions about like, why are these teams from different countries playing each other? Where's this other team from?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I've never thought about there being like a pro soccer league in Romania or wherever it was. And then I started just going down this wormhole of like history and information, and like being a kind of nerd that I am. I was just like got very ravenous because I also just had like, you know, a pretty traumatic thing that I had to leave and stop doing. So I got nothing to do with my life, and now I'm here. So
the show still went on though.
The show did go on. We had to get a different guy named Andrew to step in and finish the show. He did a really good job. Shout out to Andrew Getton.
Yes.
But so yeah, I mean, I think it is fascinating to see people who like get into it later in life and have it be this very impactful, like, it's just a really fascinating thing to me, because I think there are very few things that really do give you a sense of like you're in on something with people in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Right. And it is a thing that makes you feel connected to something bigger than most other things, you know.
The 2022 World Cup was amazing, and seeing it happen in the winter while kids were in school was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like y'all, the kids were on the computers watching the game so much that our network had to like shut them down from like being able to access the games. Like all the schools in our network. Yeah. And they're like, Mr. LeBauex, we good. We about to still get on this. So we're on the hallway. We're holding computers. It was the best. And then that final was probably the best game of soccer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so like that moment, I think because the kids were in school still, and like how it fell is going to be something that they're going to study. They're going to study.
Yeah. And I wonder the impact of having a World Cup when American kids are together in school in the winter, when like so much like you need things to focus on, right? That's interesting. Yeah.
Because in the summer they're outside. They weren't gonna watch soccer. I mean, the kids who were like real fans. Yeah. But then some of our kids who like have no Mr. LeBauex, I'm watching a little soccer. Like what you did. I said, oh man, we might have something here. Amazing. Yeah, but it was fun time.
Okay, so we're gonna move back forward in time.
Back forward in time, okay.
So we've gone through most of your childhood in Chicago and early soccer experiences. Obviously, there's more to dig into there, but you know we've only got so much podcast to get through here. So you went to college at University of Virginia. Right. You're a Cavalier.
Go Hoos.
So when you broke into that team finally, and you were really like, okay, I'm not losing this opportunity. This is mine now. Was there an immediate desire to like, once you were there, did you look up and you were like, I want to play pro now? Or was it a thing that took a couple years?
I think when you go to UVA, everyone wants to be a pro.
Yeah.
Right. I have friends who played D1 at other places, and they were like, that's just not some of the kids' thing, right? Like I have some buddies go to Princeton. It's like some of them might want to go to pro, but it's like, I'm about to go do something else.
I'm about to so much money, like, you know, trading stuff. I don't know.
You're fuck you 42K. Hey, I get it. You going for your dreams, but like I'm about to be in New York balling. Yeah. And so I think that is the thing. Like I think from our top players to even like the 30th guy on our team had some aspirations of like, if things fell into place, I could do this. Yeah. So
how many players that you were playing with did end up going? Like at UVA your senior year, let's say, or your junior year?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Wow. Okay.
7.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
What was your favorite like memory from being at UVA on the field?
On the field. Oh, that's a tough one. Beating Maryland in the Elite 8.
Wow.
Was good because no one likes not no one likes Maryland, but like our rivalry is like they do this thing, and it's crazy. Like, so when you're warming up and you'll be like right next to them, when they stretch, they all just look at you like an intimidation thing.
Cool.
And it's always like, God dang it. And when you go there, it's impossible to win.
Yeah.
We got a tie there earlier in the year.
Yeah.
We ended up beating them in the ACC tourney. So it's like, are we going to be able to tie, win? Are we going to be like, it's just tough in soccer.
The stats start to stack.
We come out there, put 3 on them. Oh, man. 3-0. It was, yep.
Man, that's amazing. Ironically, well, this is probably not ironic. I don't know what it is. But in our second episode this season, we had Bardia Kimiavi on, who played at Northwestern.
Okay.
And his favorite memory from college was also beating Maryland. Yeah.
Was he on that team that beat him there in the Big Ten tournament?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I remember watching that game being like,
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I know it was a big game. He's from DC.
He's from okay.
So I think like his whole family was
Yeah,
there, and
yeah.
it was like a big
Oh, I
thing.
wonder if the coach Russ LeBauex stole him from Maryland to go to Northwestern, because Russ used to be at Maryland.
Oh, did he?
So he went
really?
Maryland, then he went to West Point.
Oh yeah,
the coach,
yeah.
and now he's at
That's
Northwestern.
Right.
So
he's a great dude.
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah.
I
He's
love
yeah,
Russ
yeah,
Payne.
yeah.
He's
Russ Payne
awesome.
is yeah.
Great. Next question.
Let's get it.
Moving right through it. What advice would you give to aspiring young soccer players in Chicago who dream of playing college soccer, and sort of that's their thing they want to do?
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing is not getting caught up in the noise. I think a lot of times what happens is now it's like D1. I gotta go D1. I gotta do, and it's just like first, not all D1s are created equal, right? It's like, you know, you do got the powerhouse ones, and then you have, you know, some of the mid-majors, and then you have some that's like, yo, we're D1, but we don't know if we're gonna give you cleats, or like you know what I mean?
Sure.
So like, and kids don't know that.
Yeah,
so I would say like
right.
do your research,
Yep.
find what works for you, and then I would also say it might be a little pessimistic. Go to a school that if you didn't have soccer, you would still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you could tear your ACL.
Yep.
You could have complications. Hey, with somehow like the new rules are going in college soccer, it might only be 28. Just 28. You can't have any more. So what if I was the bottom guy? And there's like, yo, there's no room for you. Are you staying at the school? Are you transferring? Right. So that was like the biggest thing for me is like when I saw myself at UVA, I was like, yes, I want to do all that. But like if soccer didn't work, would I enjoy this experience?
Yeah.
And then also kids got to hustle and like get their name out there. Think about it. There's, I don't remember, maybe 200 D1 teams, and you have all the other divisions. But then if you really do the math about how many kids and like how many emails they're seeing and then all this stuff, you're like, yo, this might be impossible.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably easier for when we were doing it because like me and my mom would just like, internet wasn't like really.
Yeah.
So we like, I remember writing
Yeah.
letters to them, mailing them and stuff.
Yeah,
and so we got a lot of responses, but like now you'd have to really hustle and get out there and let your name be known.
And we're going to talk about like the system, the soccer system as a whole, which is going to take some time. But I think like something that really does interest me is the idea of like saturation, oversaturation of players and talent and where it is and where it's looked for or not. And like the system question I always get into when I start talking about college soccer specifically is just like, you know, it's a game. It's one of the only games that has such deep precedent elsewhere. Yeah. You know, which we break through college sports. Yeah. Basically. So like, just thinking about that as like the fact of the situation, how do we make it work with everything else? Yeah. Which is also not working that well. You know? Yeah. It's a complicated. It's a complicated system. But okay. So what was your biggest challenge in making the jump to pro soccer from college soccer?
Length of season.
Yeah. I'd
be a betting man to say like every college kid thinks that because in college it's so quick, right? You got there in August. Right. If you're lucky enough, like we were, my last year, you played till December, middle of December. Yeah. But many teams don't get there, right? So then they're done in November. Yep. Now you're like trying to get prepped for this maybe combine or whatever. Bam. January comes around, you get drafted. Now you're about to go from January all the way to November. And you've never played that long. Yeah. You've just moved to a new city. You are now fighting against people whose livelihood this is, like really. Like for you as a 21-year-old kid, I had no responsibilities. I'm cooling. But it's like, Pablo Mastroianni has a family and like he's played in the World Cup. Right. And like I gotta play against him now and try to fight for my spot, my position. Yeah. It's like, damn. And then, like it's always around summertime. You just like kind of hit a wall. Mm-hmm. You're like, this is a long season. This is a grind. And we weren't flying, them private jets like they do now. I was right there in coach with the consultant next to me, just traveling places. So I would say like length of season. Yeah. And then like understanding that like you want to say it's a game, but it's like not a game anymore. Right. And those are some of the things that people like forget.
Yeah. Was that mostly evident by having those like more experienced pros as teammates now?
Yeah.
That was the main thing. Was
Yeah.
just the people around you. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, you're
Different level.
yeah, you're different.
Yeah.
You're not like my college friends.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You're like taking care of yourself. You're doing this. You're out of the man. We go to a away trip. I don't care what time the flight is because I'm young. I'm trying to hang
Right.
out and stuff. And they're on the flight 6 a.m. back early without the team because they need to get back to their families.
Yeah. Right.
They got responsibilities, and I'm like,
Yeah.
now that I have a family, I'm like, oh, I would have done the same.
Yeah.
I would have it would have been a different lifestyle.
Yeah. What was your first moment on the field as a pro, either like facing a person or a situation or a game or whatever, where you were just like, oh damn, this is different. Like I'm at a
easily Thierry Henry. Like even because I look now and I was like, okay, how old was he when he came to the league?
Yeah.
I think he was like 30 or something. Just different level.
Yeah.
Like skill, speed, athleticism,
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
grit, all the things. You're like, this is crazy. Like I was like, how are you so good at soccer?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because you see it up close. Because I think sometimes on TV they make it look easy.
Sure.
But when you're like on the field level, you're moving around, you're like, what they are doing is crazy.
Mhm.
Who else was another one?
But
Brian Mullen.
Okay.
He played for San Jose for a long time and played for Houston, and then
Okay.
we traded for him. He's won 5 MLS Cups.
Oh wow.
The most like unassuming guy,
Yeah.
but like a good pro. And,
Yeah.
like that's why I won the MLS Cup that year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that mid-season trade, that guy was lights out. So it's like,
Wow.
I know he's not Henri, but like I wanted to like still give people like
No, absolutely.
people want
I'm
to
curious
believe, you
about
know,
that
like
too.
like you know the Henris or some of these DPs, but like
Mhm.
there are some like really good Americans where you might look at them like they're not that good, and then you go, nah,
Yeah.
they are. I mean, Pablo is the man.
Yeah.
Like he was the best person to learn from because I
Yeah.
played the same position and like
Right.
just a leader, just a good person.
Yeah. Getting that
Just so
6 a.m.
good.
flight to see the family.
Yep.
Just good
Yeah.
man.
He was. And now what he's doing in Real Salt Lake and
Yeah.
how they've all got on board and everything that people say about Pablo, I'm like, yep,
Yeah,
that
makes
checks out.
sense.
Like
he's
like
done a really good job there.
they give him no money. They give him no like, and he goes, I'll figure it out because he's
Mhm.
like you run through a wall for him.
Yeah.
Not like you're like, oh, everyone says that. No, like that guy has those guys flying.
Yeah.
It's cool to see. I text him occasionally, but like,
Yeah.
I like what you're doing and stuff. And
That's
he's
awesome.
like, thanks, brother. Gives
Yeah.
me like some like inspirational quote or something like, you haven't changed.
Oh, man. Still got it.
Still got it.
Pablo.
Still got it. Yep.
What year were you drafted?
2010.
2010. So then you played through 2013, 2012.
10, 11, 12, 12, 13. I got waived halfway through the season.
Okay.
Tough one.
In Colorado.
Yeah.
What was that process like? What was like your?
Oh,
I mean, I'm
just whirlwind. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think now
been
the
another time.
wounds
Yeah.
have healed.
Sure.
But once again, it's like soccer has become your identity. This is what you think. You think
Mhm.
you're gonna have this long career, and then the rug is kind of pulled from underneath you. Just now I'm like lost. I'm just like, wait, what? So I'm
Yeah.
like, there's no way that can happen to me.
Right.
Like I'm too good to be waived, but I wasn't. Oscar is one of his players, and
Mhm.
you gotta respect that and you keep it moving. So I tried to bounce around a little bit. You call your agent, you try to see what you can do. Ironically enough, I did have a tryout with the Real Salt Lake a few weeks later.
Uh-huh.
Just doesn't work out because it's like mid-season. Teams are kind
it's a
of
weird
so it's
time.
a weird time. Then I was injured, so then I got like a surgery. Then I tried out in Seattle for a little bit. They liked me, but they didn't have any room, so that's always the tough one. You're like, you
Yeah.
like me, but you didn't want to put me on your team, okay? And then I ended up going to Rochester for a year.
Nice.
I knew the coach there from his days at Richmond Kickers.
Uh-huh.
He remembered me because we'd play them in our spring at UVA, so he
Mhm.
remembered me, knew
Yeah.
like what I had, and so my other buddy who I played with in Colorado, he ended up back in Rochester. He was there before me, and he's like, "Come play in Rochester, maybe get that love back."
Yeah.
And I did not get the love back.
Oh,
It was
no.
just like different. It's just
Hard to take a quick step like that where you're just
Yeah.
like, all right, this is not this is not it. Rochester's a tough place to live too, isn't it?
Yeah, as a young person
Yeah.
who's come from Denver, which is like a great lively outdoor place
Yep.
to now I'm in Rochester, driving my car from Chicago through Buffalo, seeing the
Dude.
snow. I mean, it was like preseason for us, so it's like cold. I said,
Yeah.
I'm from Chicago. This is different.
Yeah.
What are we doing? How am I going to live here? What are my wages? Do I love it that much? Am I playing in front of 10, 15 people on July 4th? And so that I think that really tests people's love for the game.
Yeah.
Like playing it.
Yeah, of course, because you've got like it's true, but you did such a kind of like incredible like pursuit of your own career from your upbringing, right? Like that's one of the things that's so impressive to me about you is that you had so little fertile soil to grow in as a soccer player in Southside Chicago when you did that like I imagine that once that moment hits and you're in Rochester and you're just like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Like, this is not.
Everyone was great in Rochester.
Yeah.
Like our kit man who like did it part-time was probably making peanuts. Like it was a cool like thing to experience.
Of course.
But it's like when you go from here to here, you're just like, this is different. And then I thought because I had played at that level and who I had played against and with, how I thought the game should be played and like my intensity in practice kind of turned people off.
Yeah.
And so like that was actually surprising to me.
Right.
Because I would thought, and not for all our players that like you're in the lower leagues, you want to try to get there.
Right.
I was like, I'm only gonna be here for a year, so I need to still be training, and I'm yelling, come on, we gotta be better. And they're like,
they're like, we're not that intense about it.
And I'm just like, no, you guys can get there. Like, I'm trying to. So that was kind of like an interesting.
Yeah. If you're not getting that energy back, you probably have a similar feeling of just like, okay, well, I'm not actually
what do we do? Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, I can even at a really lower level, I think there's a degree to which people who are well further past their own sort of peaks of their careers sort of have that moment where you kind of look around and you're just like, is it worth not doing other things to do this?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Well, we're going to take a very quick break here, and we'll be right back with the continuation of this conversation.
That's great.
Yeah, no, that's good. We'll fix that in post. We're going to CGI that in. Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back from our break with our guest, Ross LeBauex. We've been having a lovely conversation so far about your experience with the game, the college game, growing up in Chicago. Yeah. Getting into the game from that perspective. Now we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about soccer in the United States more generally as a whole. And my first question is sort of like very vague, but how has the game of soccer changed since you sort of discovered it in Chicago as a kid in the U.S.?
Yeah.
And what ways do you think that is sort of most notable?
Yeah. I think just every kid now has some entry point to soccer. Mm-hmm. I think that is like the biggest thing. When I tell you I was of my school in Bridgeport, me and my brothers were probably the only 4 kids that played soccer.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, wow. And now you look any and everywhere and there's soccer for the kids.
Yeah.
Like I said, no clubs in the city. Now you have so many youth clubs in the city. You have youth clubs in all the suburbs. You then take it up another level. Now you have these MLS academies. You have real infrastructure, real resources for these kids. You're seeing more Freddie Adu's now, right? Like you're seeing kids be pros at 15. I was not going to be a pro at 15. You know what I mean? Like when I'm like really thinking, I'm like, these kids are pros. And I was just trying to hold a hand and maybe go to a movie date.
Yeah.
And so like I think those are the things that I'm seeing. I did a little scouting for MLS in an event a few years ago, and you're like watching these kids roll up to the game. They got the physio, they got the massage therapist, they got the data person, they got assistant coach. I'm like, who are these rock stars? I mean, it is unbelievable, and that is just a testament to the time and the resources and the money that people are putting into it. And then I think also kids are liking it. You can watch it more. When we were kids, well, you were 28 when you started, but like when I was a kid, you had like Sky Sports, and so you'd catch a Man U game, and then it'd be like rugby, cricket, da 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 da.
Yeah.
So we couldn't watch that much soccer. when MLS was around, we could kind of watch. Like I said, U.S. Women's National Team was on. You'd have to wait for the little ticker to be like, dee-dee-dee. And they're coming up next. You're like, yes, they're about to play. So now it's just so much resources, and the kids have it at their disposal, and like kids watch it, right? We see kids now walking around with jerseys. You see the fandom. You see MLS. You see what Atlanta has done. You see what Seattle did, and so these moments are huge, and the game has grown.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious also what you think about sort of Chicago soccer as an entity of itself, right? Chicago's soccer scene is sort of an anomaly in a lot of ways because I love the city of Chicago and it's like massiveness. Yeah. But I think in some ways it's massiveness and it's sort of like neighborhood villagey-ness makes it hard to really look at it as a whole. Yeah. So I'm curious to know what you think as you've said, there are so many more youth clubs and so much more soccer happening. What do you think the sort of state of like Chicago soccer is?
Yeah, that's
right
a good
now?
question. I know enough. I'm not like totally plugged into it. I think what has been a challenge for Chicago soccer is how do you tap into the 77 neighborhoods we have here?
Yeah.
How do you really get to grow this game to a place where everyone wants to be a part of it in a way that they're connected to their pro teams, right? Like, how do you get kids connected to the fire? We talked about this a little bit on the phone. Was like, I think the problem with American soccer was like we tried to push it and we tried to not grow it organically. We were just like pushing, It has to grow organically. Yeah. It has to be a thing where when my kids are older, they know we're fire. We ain't nothing else. And I think we have that in other sports, right? Like you can't be from Chicago and like Green Bay. Like that ain't flying. So like we have to build it like that because then it becomes a little about you and like your personality, but it also is great memories, right? It'll be memories that will last a lifetime. And I think what you guys are doing is like the same thing. Like you're going to get people from the ground. They're going to like, this is going to be their team. They're going to feel the community. They're going to feel what it feels like to be a part of something that's bigger than them. And I think that's the only way you can grow it. I think there's just so many kids that you're missing out on in Chicago. I think it's just, there needs to be probably more scouting. There needs to be like even more money. If you say you want to do the things you said you wanted to do about the game. Yeah. So
totally. Absolutely. I think one of the biggest challenges to, the system we have in the US also is that we already mentioned college being sort of one aspect of it, right? Which is just a whole very, very unique to the rest of the world. And then there's our pro sort of system that we have here, which is also in itself kind of disconnected comparatively to other places. Right. So there's like all these challenges that make it sort of uniquely difficult for culture to organically grow here.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Where in most other cultures, there's a very clear system that clubs grow in and fandoms grow in, and there's the pursuit to go up or down or whatever. There's like this intrinsic like we all rise or fall together thing. That we don't have. But I think you're right that like there has to be a way to really invest in the environment, right? Like that's the thing that I find is most important to think about, is not just like how we fill the seats for these next 20 games. It's like, how do we improve the ecosystem of Chicago soccer so that 2 seasons from now there are twice as many kids graduating from high school that really want to come see a game. Yep. And the ones that stay in town for college will all come or whatever, right? Like there has to be a little more forward thinking in that regard. And I think one thing that's challenging about having the system we do, and like I'm not someone who's very much like if MLS disappeared everything would be better. I think that's impossible at this point. But like
people think that.
Yeah. There are people who think that. But like my main thing is just that like I do feel as though imagining a system where everyone's just more on the same page would help. Like that would help. It would help if the leagues were like friends with each other. It would help if like colleges fit into the rest of the system more easily, right? So I'm always curious to know how we can improve the ecosystem more locally here. And I think you're right that like the more engagement you can do on a broader scale within communities and really like making those long-term engagements is a way to do that.
Yeah.
Went off on a little diatribe.
No, I love
there.
that.
Sorry.
No, I love that. I love that.
What are some of the biggest challenges? I mean, I basically answered this question, but I'll let you do it now. What are some of the biggest challenges facing continued growth of soccer in the U.S., both at the professional and grassroots levels?
You were good. I was like, all right, this guy starting at 28, he's, you know, a thing or two.
Read a lot of books.
Yeah, that's good. We have to also give ourselves grace that soccer's so new in America.
Yeah.
Like, how old is MLS?
25, 26, yeah.
Right. Arsenal's been around like for a century, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's always funny. Like, yes, America's huge, and we have this and we have that, but it's like, we just kind of are kind of starting.
Yeah.
You couple that with we are competing with other sports in America, right? So there are some barriers. We just have to continue to invest. We have to also be okay with doing things our way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I want pay to play to go away? Yes. Is it going away anytime soon? No. How are y'all going to pay people living wages? That, everyone's having this conversation. And like, the European guys go over here, oh yeah, just get rid of pay to play. It's like, if I sell that one kid for $50 million, yes, sure. It will all be worth it. We don't have that yet. We do not have that yet. And then until we slowly come along, yes, use resources and learn from others, but also like stay true to ourselves. I think it's okay. College soccer potentially might go to a 2-season thing.
Right.
So they are trying some things. Like I said, these academies are impressive. The kid from Philly, Sullivan, is going to Man City. So people act like we're so far behind, where it's like, I don't know, Liga MX is probably like, what are they doing in MLS?
Yeah. No, it's true. And the speed at which it's grown is incredible. That's true.
Duran's at Aston Villa, balling. These big clubs are in it after him.
Yeah.
Almiron comes back, but he was killing it for Newcastle.
Yep.
Like, we could be a league where we get these young guys in Central South America. They find their way. We sell them. We're not just a selling league. We're not a retirement league. We're a proper league that like is getting good players. The quality is getting better. I think like fandom's coming, around.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I just think sometimes people want to see the doom and gloom, but I look at it like, watch what 2026 is going to bring to this country. Watch what like this next generation does, and it's going to be crazy to think my kid's 7 in like 10 years where the league will be at.
That's a very good point. And you're right. I think there is a sort of built-in pessimism to soccer people in the US. Which is sort of like just by nature of having to listen to the English talk about us all the time because we watch so much soccer like based there, and like that's where so much of like English speaking soccer culture sort of sits, and we have to kind of take it. But I think you're right that like evolution has to run its course a little bit, and that like we're still, our first division league is able to drink 4 years ago. It's like very young, very young still. So like we have to be patient with it.
Look at the players that we have on our national team. We have kids playing. They're not kids anymore. They're like playing at big clubs,
captaining Serie A teams. No, it's true. And I think it's also important to note that like this, how massive the '94 World Cup was and starting MLS, right? Think about the 2026 World Cup coming with MLS the way it is now already, right? Like that, having that infrastructure there already, think about the impact it can have on the next, generation after that. It's huge.
With whispers from the Don saying they might go to that calendar soon.
They might just switch everything up. We'll be playing games in Chicago and, January 1st.
You have to go play out Rockford.
Exactly. Gotta put a dome on this bad boy. Okay. How can we continue to develop and improve the player pathway in the U.S. from youth to the professional level? Because like you said, there's a lot of good players now. There's a lot of good players getting seen earlier, going pro earlier in Europe and so on. What do you think can improve the situation, though?
I think there has to be an emphasis on still, in my opinion, like we want to make better players. I'm just not in the camp of like leaving these players out to dry if it
Yeah.
doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And maybe that's I'm not a coach and I'm not the businessman and I'm not this. But you have these academies, you have these kids, they have dreams and aspirations to do these things. And it would be hard to think if I signed a contract at, I don't know, 17, and by the time I'm 20, I'm done.
Yeah.
I just am like, oh, I'm gutted for that kid.
Yeah.
Unless they made a lot of money and the contract was good and things. But I don't know how much the kids are signing for. That seems like a high risk. And I know people are like, follow your dreams. Yes. And let's just make sure that we're supporting these kids that we poured into and like they did become maybe a part of our family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe that's not fixing the pathway and the players,
No,
but like I think for me, like I said, I was telling you we had talks about this at my B course. Was like, what is the cost of like if one day you had a kid and they're going pro at a young age or college, and
right,
what works for them.
And of course, with that perspective and that in mind, like that does make college soccer make a lot more sense, right? Because you're able to have a safety net beyond the game that is your education.
Yeah.
And your ability to, move into other stuff.
And I don't know what NIL is for soccer, but it could be a thing.
It exists. There are some college soccer players that have NIL deals with like hydration packs and stuff like that. It's out there.
Yep.
Yeah, and everything's going to change, That's the nature of having something that's sort of like not set in stone yet.
Yeah.
Soccer is still like in the cauldron, so we'll see what happens. Okay, speaking of education.
Yeah.
That's your career. You are in the world of education.
I am in the world of education.
What is your role now, and what's your life like in that?
Yeah, I am the dean of a high school. I'm the dean of culture, and my job entails helping kids navigate some of the social and emotional stuff that I think COVID has taken away from them.
Yeah.
Trying to create a school where kids can learn and ultimately give kids choice-filled lives. That's what we're trying to do. Like I said, I play a small part in it. I just want the school to be safe. I want kids to feel like they're heard. I want kids to feel like this is their school and they can always come to other adults if they have like problems and things like that. Like I said, I'm not the teacher, but when we talk about foundationally, the culture and climate is what kind of makes the school tick so that teachers can use their expertise to actually be able to teach the material.
Right. So it's basically creating an environment in which kids are in the best possible like social and emotional place to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that is it has taken a toll on kids and like man, it's like just hard to picture being at those ages. And I think kids who were in COVID in like 6th, 7th, 8th, I think are struggling more.
Yeah.
Like my kid had like the year after, but he was so young and like I don't know if there was one day out and like we had to log onto the computer for one day. I'm like, we're not doing that. Cool. But I couldn't imagine 6th, 7th, and 8th grader log into a computer. Okay, are you here? Are you going to turn your camera on? No, because I have anxiety. Am I following along? Did I do the work? Am I not doing the work? It just seemed impossible.
Yeah.
And so I think we are seeing some of the effects of that. But 5 years later, I think now kids are building back the muscles.
Yeah.
For grit, perseverance, conflict resolution, right? Because they weren't with each other.
Right.
So it was just like, what happened? Where did that?
Yeah.
Where did that go? So like I said, they're doing better. We're able to now like get to the academics, which is good because the culture at our school has gotten to a good place. My team has been great. My principal is she's amazing, and we're doing some good stuff, and I've enjoyed the work.
That's amazing. I mean, like that's such an important thing to focus on in any organization.
Yeah.
And like I feel like there are a lot of, especially in the last several years, like since COVID basically, in that period of time, which I know had such a wild impact on kids. And I don't engage with kids very often in my life, right? I don't have them or teach kids or anything, but I know that everyone I know who either had kids during that time who were in school, like school age, middle school, elementary school, like the the massive period of time that you usually have to learn socially and learn just what it's like to be a person normally.
Yes.
Like, you just didn't get that.
Yeah.
So
Took
like
it for granted.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
absolutely.
I didn't know. That's how you
like
yeah.
getting to go play like PlayStation with my friends,
Yeah.
like that alone was such an important, impactful part of my
Yeah.
upbringing, like learning how to tell jokes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So like I think it's really amazing that they put a real like emphasis on that, obviously in the school, but also specifically because of COVID. Like, I'm basically assuming that not every school has what you are.
Yeah. So what is interesting about charters and the difference between a charter and a CPS is
Yeah.
like CPS has to follow certain like criteria and things like that.
Right.
Like they can't stray outside the box.
Right. They
The
can't like
luxury-
invent the role of dean of culture.
Yes.
Right.
So like when my wife was an assistant principal, in her like admin meetings, it's like the principal, her, and like maybe like a social worker.
Sure.
So 3
yeah,
people.
Yeah.
So at my school, we literally have our principal, we have an assistant principal, we have a dean of instruction, so someone who goes around the classes and like helps teachers be better.
Cool.
We have a dean of students.
Yeah.
That usually that would be like a quasi between my role and their role.
Yep.
But we go, no. Let's just give that to one person, a dean of students.
Yeah.
We have a dean of operations that handles the school, and then we have me, the dean of culture, and we also have a dean of specialized services.
Okay.
So any kid who has IEPs, 504s. So it's like
Mhm.
how different. Oh, I forgot one of our other deans, our dean of college,
Okay.
who just deals specifically with getting our kids into college. So
Yep.
could you imagine kids getting that?
Yeah.
And like the support that CPS should also have that. We're like in the same entity,
Yeah.
but they can't.
Yeah.
And
Because
so
yeah.
I'm
That's
just like
really
how
interesting.
lucky.
That's lucky, especially right now, man. Because
Yeah.
like you said, like the kids right now, having come out of COVID and needing to
Yes.
sort of like reemerge into normalcy, you just need more support.
Yep.
That's awesome. What's something that you've been really like proud of
Yeah.
in your work, in sort of in regard to that, in regard to kids kind of reemerging into normalcy? Like what's something that you really like remember and stick to?
I always love when I see them having fun,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's at a homecoming dance or at a football game, because then they see me in like a different light.
Yeah.
Always love prom.
Yeah.
You know, they get to go on the boat on Navy Pier.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a cute moment. And then like the moment that makes it all worth it is always graduation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You see a kid who was a knucklehead
Uh-huh.
at 9th grade, and then they
Uh-huh.
become, you know, like just an older person.
Yeah.
And then like, we appreciate you, you know, like thank you for all you do. And like, you don't do it for that, but it is also to like get that, you know, affirmation of like, man, when it was tough, when you're like, man, is this ever gonna get better? You're questioning, am I in the right line of work? What are we doing here? You see those kids with their parents. A lot of them are, you know, they're gonna go to college. They're first generation,
Yeah.
right? You see the parents crying. I'm like, man, this is emotional. I
Yeah.
get a little
Yeah,
tear. I
I
get a
can
little
tell,
teary eyed.
yeah.
So those are like the moments that I always love, and they do make it worth it when the days are tough. And I'm like, oh my, like I need to go walk around the block.
Just
It's what- I'm
remember-
like,
just remember graduation. Just remember
You guys are
graduation.
lovely people.
That's a great answer.
Yep.
Okay. Why do you believe? Or that's not the question.
That wasn't.
Do you?
do it, my?
Do you believe that education is essential for success in the modern soccer industry? Why or why not?
So you're just soccer industry. You're not
Yes.
saying just playing. Okay.
No,
I see
no.
what you did there.
Yeah.
All right. Whether it's formal or not, I think that is the way to unlock everything.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like having those experiences and being able to draw back on, you know, past experiences to kind of dictate what you're going to do moving forward, I think is important. I think being able to network, I think being able to be an effective communicator, right? Like these are all things that are necessary. And I don't know if you just need college. Like I know Kellen didn't go to college. And like I told you, I had met him a few weeks back. That man is out here doing great things in Chicago. He's like his foundation. He's like, what can I do? How can I do this? He's got the field he made in Engage Park. And so like you look at someone like that and you're like, he went for it. He's learned a lot. Though he didn't go to college, that hasn't stopped him from still feeling like he can impact in certain places and be in certain rooms and do what he has to do. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then I think there has to be like an unwavering kind of confidence in yourself that like whether you find success early, there's some ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
You always know that you can offer something to the game and offer something to people.
Great answer. That was a great answer.
Trying, man. I'm
All
trying.
right. Okay, we're at our last section. We're at our last
All right,
section.
bring it on.
Rapid fire questions. Who is the leader or mentor you would immediately seek advice from in a difficult situation?
Soccer person or just like
In general, anybody.
Mentor? Because like my wife's probably not my mentor.
But she's the person you'd seek advice from?
Yeah, she's, I mean,
that's
like,
a great answer.
Yeah, she's just way smarter than me.
Yeah, I know
it's
the
like,
feeling.
It's
yeah.
just like, man,
Yeah.
you're great. I'm glad,
I'm so glad
I have kids with you
Yeah,
because our
God, you're
kids are going
really-
to have some good genes.
You really do know a lot, don't you?
Like I
Yeah.
said, she's amazing. She's done she worked in education before, so she's the one who kind of got me into it. And now
Yeah.
she's out, but anytime I'm having a tough day, thinking about things, she has always the answer. And I'm like, damn.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
It'd be cool to be that smart and be able to calculate
Yeah.
it and know the things. But,
I know the feeling.
Yep.
My wife's way smarter than me
Yep.
too. Who's a player, past or present, that you would avoid going back in time to play against?
Avoid.
Like just someone you just like, man, I would not want to have to play against them.
Yeah. Trying to think.
I mean, Thierry Henry is a pretty good answer. And
He
you've already
is,
done
yeah,
that.
he's good. But I'm like, well, who else was like? It's not just a player; it was
Yeah.
a team.
Okay.
The 2010 Real Salt Lake teams.
Okay.
You're like, damn, Sabarillo,
Mm.
Espindola, Will Johnson, Beckerman, Gravoboy, Beltran, Olave. I was like, this team is kind of not. And like, I just remember battling the Rocky Mountain Cup was
Yeah.
big.
Yeah. Of course.
And I mean, just battling them and seeing them, and like they had a little chip because they know, and,
Yeah.
and 9 they won. So I was just like, who are? But I was like, these guys are kind of nice.
Yeah. They had that. They had that post
Yep.
MLS Cup
Yep.
bounce
Yep.
to them.
Yep.
That's a good
Yep.
answer.
For that team.
Okay. Who is one player you would choose to go back in time and watch live?
Ooh, it's a good one. There were so many players in like the street soccer cage. Remember that?
Yeah.
Those players like Totti, Del Piero, Figo,
Uh-huh.
some of those guys
Edgar
would be
Davids.
cool. Yep. Kaká would be cool to watch.
Yeah.
Like because I was young and that was like these guys are amazing. But like to see any of those guys, so probably like that 2002 World Cup would have been my wheelhouse of players.
Great. What city would you choose to move to just to watch soccer games?
Ooh. Just for mere volume, it had to be London.
Yeah.
Right? I just
that
think,
is the logical answer. If you're being
yes.
number of possible games.
Yeah. I mean, for such a small country, you're like, how many teams y'all have here?
It's crazy. There are 7. Like some years there are 7 Premier League teams in London.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So I'm like, I'm cool. I'll watch Premier League. I'll watch championships. So
Yeah,
I think for just pure volume.
Yeah.
And I just like that culture.
Yeah, those like all the London derbies would be so
Yeah,
much fun. You
yeah.
just like go around all
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
It's a great answer. Okay. What is the best experience you've had while traveling for soccer?
Okay, since it's quick fire, I'm gonna say some quick
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
up.
yeah.
I thought it was cool that my first year in Colorado, because Kroenke owns Arsenal. We
Right,
got to go to
right.
Arsenal.
Oh, cool.
So that was cool. We got to train there. I remember like
That's
seeing
sick.
Aboué, Arshavin, and then I
Wow.
remember like walking out to their field and like seeing first team training and you turn. There's just cameras everywhere. There's like actual paparazzi because I'm like, I've been to MLS. No one care about me, but I'm like, they're really famous. So like, you look at the cars in their lot. You're like, my 2010 Chevy Malibu ain't doing it here. So that was cool. And then I think coming back from winning the national championship on the bus with my boys was like a great time. Like we stopped at like Outback on the way back. It's like, I'm 21. I can get a beer.
my
We're
God,
drinking
that's
beers.
amazing.
Our coach is like, you can get the blooming onions. We get like we're just having a great time. And then we're back on like the bus going back to Charlottesville. And I just remember just buzzing, just being like, this is a cool thing to do with my boys.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
those two.
That's both like a very like kind of ostentatious trip
Yes.
to London,
Yes,
and
yes,
then
yes.
also the bus trip to
Yeah,
Outback
just the
Steakhouse.
Yeah.
It's a good spectrum.
Yeah.
What message do you have for young Chicago players who dream of going pro one day?
Yeah. I don't think I'm like special in any way. I think I was just a kid from the South Side who wanted to dream big, and I was fortunate enough to have someone in my corner, my mom and my parents, to kind of be the catalyst for me.
Yeah.
And so I would tell kids to just continue to enjoy the game. I think it gets now a little too much, and maybe that's not fair, but I just enjoy the game, become a fan of the game, right? Like, yes, you want to be pro, you want to dream, but I think it's bigger than that. I think we need to cultivate the next generation of kids who are going to love the game, and this becomes our sport, right? Like, soccer then is here to stay in America because we had this generation who did dream big, and then when those dreams maybe didn't come true, they were still able to fall back on something and have the love. And I think that's where I'm at now, is like, I did the things, I didn't do them to like the level that I wanted to in the sense of playing like and having a long career, but I can look and be proud of what I did because, like I said, I'm just a kid from the South Side trying to play some soccer, and it just kind of worked out for me.
Beautiful. So. What are your predictions for the future of soccer in the United States?
I wish I like recorded some of the conversations with my friends in the past, because I'm like, man, we might win this World Cup. That might be crazy. And I was saying this, I was like, because look, if they're in the Premier League, by the time they're 27, 28, they're going to have 200 appearences. We've never had. And I was just like, teams do better on their home soil. I was doing all the that stuff.
Exactly.
And people were like, no, they're not. People were just totally, and I was like, we are going to win the World Cup. And a part of me thinks like, why not us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not us? There's so many nations that like haven't won it who are quote unquote head and shoulders above us, right? They've done these things and things like that. But like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If we're clicking, if Pooch is like doing the thing, if the players are believing in like what we have, I don't see like why we can't. In 2002, we're one bad handball away from like maybe making the final of the World Cup, and people forget about that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Lest we forget. Disney movie that most defines who you are as a person from your childhood. That like,
dang, because I was gonna say adulthood, because I've watched probably more now than I have.
Yeah, I know, but like if you look back and you're like, this one really like shaped me the most.
See, there's so many like cliche, like I could go Aladdin, Lion King.
I mean, those are all fine answers.
You know which one I like that people like? I don't know.
Yeah,
Oliver and Company.
Dude.
Billy Joel.
Yeah.
You know that one.
Yeah, of course. The cats, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The anthropomorphized ones.
Yeah. That was my jam. And like,
dude.
That's like I don't know. It's just like
it gets lost in the mix of the Aristocats too.
Yes.
I think people don't remember it because of the other cat one.
It does.
That's a good one. Mine is also an animal-based one. Mine's Robin Hood. The animated Robin Hood.
Great one.
Pretty old school, but yeah, kind of an old man at heart.
But the best one is Coco, and that should have probably won Movie of the Year.
Yeah, you know what? Coco slaps.
Yeah.
Coco is one of the best.
It could have won. If there was ever a movie that could have won for Picture of the Year, dude. I know the Academy would never do it. That movie has the ebbs and flows of emotions.
It does.
Like, this is amazing.
Talk about the songs built in a lab to make you cry.
Yes, Remember Me.
Yeah. We're done here, folks.
Done. Yeah,
I think we've closed it out. Ross, thank you so much for being here, man. It's been a pleasure getting to know you a little better and talking to you. And yeah, we're just really, really glad to have you. We're gonna figure out which one, but you get to take one of these posters home with you. Not just these two. We have a bunch, so we'll get you one that you like.
I'll take them all.
Okay, well we'll talk about it.
Well, maybe not.
We'll talk about that later. But thank you so much for being here, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to Stone by Stone. We will be back next week, and hope you have a great rest of your night. Good evening.
Ahoy there! Thank you for listening to Stone by Stone, an Edgewater Castle podcast. Be sure to listen to our next episode, or better yet, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, where you can find video versions of our episodes, Spotify, Apple Music, or anywhere else you get your podcast fix. We'll have a lot of exciting new content coming up throughout the year, and we want you to stay along for the ride. In fact, you should probably just follow us on all social media platforms also. Just to be safe. And with that, I leave you be. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for supporting the club, listening to the podcast, and as per usual, go Rooks.